In the beginning, before sin entered the picture, there was perfect harmony between God and man and woman, body and soul, and man and all of creation. In this harmony, there was a moment, though, that man decided not to trust God, choosing to disobey him. It's called original sin. And it was like an earthquake that disrupted all of these harmonies, springing out of the heart of man. The first words after sin was, "I'm afraid because I was naked and I hid myself." John Paul II says the necessity of hiding oneself shows the fundamental lack of trust, which already in itself points to the collapse of communion. The shame man and woman now experience is the symptom of man's detachment from love. A virus entered the human heart, causing doubt and false beliefs about who God is and who they are to him. This virus we inherited has wounded us to where we are inclined to sin and evil. This negative inclination in us is called concupiscence, which causes our minds, our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, and attractions to pull us away from God's original plan. Creation and human nature did not become bad and evil after sin. I want to make that very clear, which some Christian denominations, such as Martin Luther, who began Lutheranism, believed. Rather, think about it this way, taking the guitar example, original sin and its effects has twisted up the tuning pegs, causing the harmony in everything to become out of tune. Our human nature is wounded and twisted up, but still very good. Every person is born with a wounded nature and biological makeup that is out of tune, where off-key music comes out, such as sexual immorality, lustful attraction between a man and a woman, same-sex attraction, feelings of not being in the right body, feelings of not knowing who you are, sin, and so on. Because we are born with our body and soul out of tune, it's easy just to assume our fallen nature is normal or natural. But when we normalize off-key music, such as sin or disordered attractions, we will view God's plan and law as foreign or in opposition to human experience, instead of the guide that untwists the tuning pegs of our hearts to bring us back into harmony. We shouldn't normalize behaviors or attractions that are outside of God's original plan, but rather align them to it. Only then can we become who we were created to be and reach the destination where we are made to be, in union with God. For example, if you say you are from Oregon, the state of Oregon, and your destination is New York, you must travel east. Even if you desire or are attracted to go north or south, you will not get to your destination. So too, we need to align all of our passions according to God's plan. God came into the world not to shame our off-key music, but to retune the pegs of our hearts. That's redemption, so we may experience a new way of life. Because we can't retune and save ourselves from concupiscence, sin, suffering, and death, the question we need to ask is, how do we allow ourselves to be redeemed? Remember, it's the heart and mind that is the battlefield, not the world, not others, not outside of man, but in my heart, in your heart. In the early 1900s, the London Times ran an article encouraging readers and prominent scholars to respond to the question, what is wrong with the world? Trying to answer this deep and thought-provoking question adequately, many scholars wrote back several-page essays with mixed answers. One day, a letter from a British journalist named G.K. Chesterton was placed on the editor's desk. The editor opened the letter and read a simple note. "Dear sir, to your question, what is wrong with the world? I am. Yours truly, G.K. Chesterton." So often when we are wounded, we act like Adam in the beginning, pointing a finger, blaming Eve and blaming the other, and then pointing a finger at God and blaming him. Chesterton, as well as Jesus Christ, invites us to a new way of thinking. Christ came into the world and made it very clear what we need to do in order to be healed and enter redemption on the Sermon on the Mount. He said, "You have heard that it was said to the men of old, 'You shall not kill.' But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment." He says, "Then you have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. But then he says, blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. And where will we see God the most in all of creation? In the human body, which is the only body, the only thing in creation that is made in God's image and likeness. And the definition of purity, according to John Paul II, is to see the glory of the human body before God. Christ is after our hearts to purify them. Our hearts are wounded, our hearts are twisted and walled up and in pain. As St. Julian of Norwich says, when God sees sin, he sees pain in us. So how do we enter this healing journey of our heart and mind in order to live fully alive and fully human? By first being aware of our story. Some have been rejected or bullied, abandoned, cheated on, neglected, abused, feel ashamed and suffer addiction or loss. The list goes on and on. How do we allow redemption to enter those parts of our story? Well, there's a scene in the show Prince of Bel-Air that gives a clue to this process. One of the main characters is a teen named Will, and Will suffered from the wound of abandonment as his father abandoned him when he was a little kid. Will was raised with Uncle Phil and Aunt Vivian. When Will was 16 years old, Will's dad Lou came back home into his life, and Will was thinking, I got my dad back, and was filled with overwhelming joy. And his dad promised a trip with him that they would go on together, and so Will began to pack his suitcase for the trip. Lou walked over to Uncle Phil and told him that, hey, I gotta leave. He's like, I can't take the trip anymore. And Lou said to Uncle Phil, so are you gonna tell Will for me or not? And Uncle Phil's like, I'm not gonna do your dirty work. And Lou decided, okay, fine, I'll just call him on the road then. And as Lou began to walk out of the room, Will rushed in with his packed bags. He's like, Daddy-o, what's up? And his father told him, hey son, look, I got some business I need to attend to. We're gonna have to put our trip on hold. You understand though. And Will was like, yeah, that's cool, whatever, sure. His father said, you know, it was great to see you, son. And stone cold Will replied, great seeing you too, Lou. And his dad walked out. And Will started to pop off to Uncle Phil, joking, and Uncle Phil said very seriously and intentionally, like, Will, it's all right to be angry. Will replied, hey, why should I be mad? I'm saying at least he said goodbye this time. I wish I didn't waste my money buying this stupid present for him. And then Uncle Phil said, I'm sorry, if there was something that I could do. You ain't gotta do nothing, Uncle Phil. Ain't like I'm still 5 years old, you know. Ain't like I'm gonna be sitting up every night asking Mom, when's Daddy coming home, you know? Who needs him? He wasn't there to teach me how to shoot my first basket, but I learned, didn't I? I got pretty dang good at it too, didn't I? It's like I learned how to drive, I learned how to shave, I learned how to fight without him. I had 14 great birthdays without him, and he never even sent me a dang card. To hell with him. I didn't need him then, I don't need him now. It's like, you know what, Uncle Phil? I'm gonna get through college without him. I'm gonna get a great job without him, marry me a beautiful wife, have me a whole bunch of kids. I'm gonna be a better father than he ever was, because I sure as heck don't need him for that. There ain't a dang thing he could ever teach me about how to love my kids. And then all of a sudden, Will started to break. And he said to Uncle Phil, how come he doesn't want me, man? In that moment, the pain in Will's heart from being abandoned was in the light, and he felt it. There were lies that he was maybe believing about himself, that, you know, I'm not wanted, I'm alone, or I'm not cared for. And Uncle Phil lovingly gazed at his pain and embraced him, loved him, offered communion in that painful place. In short, love and communion is what heals the brokenhearted. To allow love to hold and heal us in those tender places of our story. That means the masks and the protective walls on our hearts need to come down. For redemption to take effect in our lives, transforming our behaviors, emotions, feelings, attitudes, and thinking to become fruits of the Holy Spirit, the painful events of our unique story need to be brought into the light for healing. Jesus called out the Pharisees, telling them, cleanse the inside of the cup so that the outside will be clean. In other words, your heart needs to be cleansed, healed, and purified so that your actions and your behaviors will be good and life-giving. The way in which we look at one another flows from the heart. Lust is a fruit, a symptom of the wounds in our heart. And so Jesus calls us inward so that we may purify our heart, seeing the human body as the glory of God shining brightly through it. Having purity of heart and being healed does not happen overnight and won't be fully completed until heaven. It's a lifelong journey, the Catechism says, which takes renewed effort at all stages in life. We must not be afraid to enter this road to redemption. It's real and can bear much fruit in your life.